So fake news has been in the news a lot lately. This concept of fake news, and it's a problem. It's a problem in our country. But this story that came out the last few days has really touched many, many thoughts in me. And that's the story of the so-called Pizzagate issue, in which through an amazing, if you follow the network of posts, tweets, retweets, reposts, this story that has just grown and grown and grown over weeks and weeks and weeks, actually, about this proposed idea that there is a child sex ring operating out of a pizza place outside of Washington, D.C., with Hillary Clinton at the core, run by all of her staff and, terrible stuff. So much so that, of course, many people, you can't believe it, and this will do her in, and headlines like, they've got her now, and things like that. But so, a man in North Carolina was so upset and so concerned about these children that he got in his car with his automatic rifle and drove to the pizza parlor to, check it out and save these kids. He did fire shots. No one was killed. Hit, even. No one was hurt. And he didn't find any children. And I'm sure he's being held on an assault charge. I didn't actually find that, but I trust that he is. But the proliferation of, quote, fake news, and this particular thing, my heart went out to this guy, that he's so concerned about these children that he's going to go shoot up the place if necessary to save them. Something that's a total fabrication, a total lie. So there's no need to even to give commentary, and I don't want to give political commentary on what kind of effect this is having on our country, that these kinds of stories are just proliferating and that people believe them. Not just a few. Hundreds of thousands of people believe them. Maybe millions of people at this point believe them. But because I'm preparing to do the review tomorrow night for the Precious Garland teaching, I was especially looking at what is things being designated by name and thought. What is that phenomenon whereby, on a basis, we impute phenomena, and then we believe it? We all do it. We all do it all day long. So the ramification actually is as destructive if we look at it from a Dharma perspective. If I apprehend the aggregates of somebody in the community, and my mind thinks or kind of reads the expression on that person's face, or reads even bigger a specific physical action that they do, and I impute rule breaker, or bad person, or angry person, and then what happens? I have an emotional response that comes up inside of me. I want to do something to stop them from harming somebody else, or I want to do something to stop them from harming me. I've just believed my own fake news story. Completely. 100%. And what happens from there, if I don't have some recognition or some restraint, then I go confront the person, I have some argument with the person. Now we have two people who are angry, seeing enemies in each other, completely fabricated and designated on that thing over there. A mess. A complete and total mess. And we do this all day long. So I've been thinking about it in the terms of the classic example of conceptual designation of the rope and the snake. Right? So the example they give to help us understand this is that you enter a dark room, and there, coiled in the corner, all the conditions are right to see this coiled shape. The light is bad. There's something maybe in the color of that thing that also influences us, and the mind imputes snake. Also, we have an internal condition to be afraid of them. right? So there's all these internal and external conditions at play. We have this perception, and terror arises. We respond to it. If you were my mother, when it happened when I was a little tiny kid, she picked up a hatchet when I stumbled upon a steak and chopped it to bits. You'd go nuts, creating terrible karma, right? Of course, if it was that rope snake, as soon as you picked up your hatchet and started hacking on it, you'd recognize that it wasn't indeed a snake. But that misconception has evoked this whole process in your mind, right? Now, of course, then the example compares it to what we do with the self. And I'll go into this much more tomorrow night, but I heard this so vividly when Jangse Chögyam Rinpoche was teaching on this. He said when we impute I on the basis of these 5 aggregates, it is exactly the same process as that imputing snake on the rope. That's a little bit hard to swallow. Exactly the same process of fabrication. The difference being, there is an I here. There is not a snake there. Why? A rope can't act like a snake. Basically, the I functions as an I, but the solid sense of something set up by its own self doesn't exist. In the same way, the snake doesn't exist in that rope. In the same way, there are no children in that pizza parlor. In the same way, that whole story about this interconnection of liberal people doing evil things and enslaving children doesn't exist. But the mind that hears that, already with an internal conditioning to believe it, runs with it. So my point is this. There's 2 levels, actually, or maybe 3. One is, we can look at this story about the fake news and be utterly aghast. And at one level, we need to address it. Absolutely. But on the other level, we can look at this guy from North Carolina and go, what a stupid fool. This guy should be locked up or whatever. Or we can look at it and go, wow, look what his mind has done in response to a whole environment that is making people crazy and respond in ways that are terribly violent. It needs to stop. But I don't need to hate him. I need to recognize that this person is actually worthy of my compassion. Furthermore, I do exactly the same thing. I haven't picked up an AK-47 yet and probably won't. I don't have the conditions to do such a thing. But do I do the exact same thing over and over? Just at a really kind of gross level. In my day-to-day life, I'm imputing stuff on people. I'm imputing their motivations, I'm imputing their feelings, I'm imputing situations, all kinds of scenarios on situations that aren't there. And it's making me miserable, and it's making me create negative karma. And then at a much more subtle level, I'm imputing inherent existence on every single thing that appears to my mind. Pretty much the appearance of inherent existence is absolutely there with every single thing. I have the quote somewhere, I didn't pull it up for this one. For every single mind, except for that of an Arya and meditative equipoise or a Buddha, every appearance we have appears as inherently existent. And I don't have a single factor except to reason to even think differently. I have to think about it. Oh, that's not truly existent. That doesn't exist in the way it appears. Oh, that doesn't exist in the way it appears. And the teachings advise us that we start to pay attention to labeling things that way. Wow, that doesn't exist the way it appears. That doesn't exist the way it appears. That situation doesn't exist the way it appears. So anyway, so point 3 then is to look at this really subtle level. This is what's keeping us in samsara. This is what is causing all of our suffering. This is what is causing all the troubles of the world. The world can be referred to our aggregates. The world can refer to the outer world. So this misconception is what we have to work with. And so we can see it running rampant in our world today, and use that as fuel to make us look at a more subtle level at our own complicit relationship with samsara, and develop a stronger and stronger motivation to be free of it. That's all I have to say.